Details? Bye. I drive a Ferrari 355 Cabriolet. What's up? I have a ridiculous house in the South Fork. I have every toy you can possibly imagine. And best of all, kids, I am liquid. So, now you know what's possible. Let me tell you what's required.
I want to apologize in advance because of the taping window today. We have no Kyle for life advice. And after we found out that he has experience at North Face jacket stealing parties and that he wore a woman's large around campus, and once he found out, he didn't care because he was like, I've been rocking it for months, so it's too late to go back now. So we know that Kyle is the gift that keeps on giving for life advice, but we don't have him. So I know, Cerruti, you're not even going to bother, but people are going to be mad at you. So
no, I can't. People are going to be mad. I can't fill his shoes. Kyle's great. It is what it is, but sorry, here I am.
It is what it is. There you go. Here we go. You mentioned the vibe when book guy walks into a bar. Wondering if that applies to crossword puzzle guy. Every Thursday, I head up to a brewery. He doesn't want me to say which one it is. Before his Candlepin Bowling League, which he said he definitely wanted me to share that part.
Wow.
So he said he usually goes for a run. Hey, Candlepin, New England, man. You don't understand it. I know you're from Connecticut, but I don't think you understand Candlepin.
No, I don't. No.
Rhode Island, South Shore, North Shore. Usually go for a run beforehand and then finish with a 45-minute having a beer and doing the crossword. It's generally empty when I get there and a bit busy towards the tail end of my stay, usually anywhere inside the 5 to 6:30 window. He wants to know, am I in the clear? I do it on my phone, so I suppose I just look like a text guy anyway. Hate being text guy, though, so usually the phone is flat for any passerbys to see. 58150. Respect. No, dude, you're fine. This is such an easy one that we decided to do it. Don't worry about it. You're having a nice little micro brew at a place, decompress, love doing crossword puzzles. Good for you. And you're good. I was talking about like it's getting a little late and you're sitting at the bar reading a book because in Mayor of Easttown, Guy Pearce is reading a book, sipping a whiskey, and it's a little late to be doing that. So when you're doing that, you're kind of like, I want you to see that I'm doing it. And hopefully someone will come up and talk to me. And like I said, my history as a bartender was that guy that would hang out a little bit later by himself, read a book. There's another guy that used to do art and then try to like hand the art to people. But he was actually a really nice guy. I think he had a girlfriend too. So, but it still was a little, it was a little weird for some other people. But yeah, there's a couple solo book guys that would roll in and then they would stay a little bit later. And I don't know, those guys never seem to be that great of a time. So you are not that guy. You're just doing crosswords and, you're there 45 minutes and you're there really early too. So, and by the way, if you went there at 10 and had a beer by yourself and looked at your phone, I don't think you would stand out anyway. I think it'll be all right. So that was a simple one. We had a lot of pushback to my apparently insensitive advice and perhaps just flat out misunderstanding on the proposal calendar. A lot of people chimed in and said, nope, Russillo, you're wrong here. So we'll read one. All caps, do not propose that quickly before your buddy's wedding. I got engaged in October 2020, looking to get married in October 21. Everything is great. I have a younger brother. I'm 25. He's 23. We've been with our respective girlfriends over 5 years. That's two young dudes who've been with their ladies for a long time. You guys know exactly what you want and you go for it. Love that about you too. Needless to say, being the first to be engaged put the pressure on my brother to pop the question because he's 23.
Yikes.
Where are you guys from? Norway in the 1600s? I don't even know what the average marriage age in Norway is. So I'm just thinking, like I started thinking medieval times, which would be prior to the date that I mentioned. But I think everybody understands where I was going with that. All right. Anyway, shout out to Norway. Only problem is he wanted to do it 2 weeks before my wedding. My fiance found out, was pissed and threw a fit. Plans were changed, but it's left a bad taste in her mouth. Oh, it's left a bad taste in their mouth. All right, we got it. This stuff doesn't matter to guys. I couldn't give, but it does to the bride unless you want to piss both of them off. Just wait. It's not hurting you at all. Cerruti is right. Just an aside before we get to Cerruti's part about this. I love the bride is really upset about it. I'm not talking about your bride in general here, but just let's do a generalization of the people that are like posting posi vibes only posts and like hats, just positive vibes. It's like, no. Actually, I just mean my fucking vibes. I don't care about your. I'm gonna let the world think I care about everybody's vibes, but really, it's just about my vibes. So if you were a positive vibes only person, you would only want positive vibes for the people around you. But when they start to impact the full throttle, like 100 out of 100 level of your vibes, and it gets knocked down to like an 85, then it isn't really about positive vibes only. It's only about your positive vibes.
Yeah, I've actually never thought about that before, but you're 100% right. Anyone who has any positive vibes only memorabilia is probably incredibly selfish. Like they are the ones that doesn't want their day fucked up. That's wild to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like that time when I blamed millennials for a segment and that guy from Awful Announcing like didn't get the joke. And it was one of the worst DMs ever. I was like, hey, dude, I really don't think you got that. And he was like, I listened to it a second time and you blame millennials for everything. And I was like, yeah. I was like, that's not really what I was doing. But it was like a tongue in cheek thing. I think you were there. Weren't you producing that day, Cerruti?
Probably,
I think you
yeah.
were.
Yeah. But honestly, that aged well because now people blame millennials for everything. Like Gen Z people hate millennials, like the baby boomers hate millennials. So we're just kind of in this weird crosshair situation where nobody likes us anymore. So actually, it's probably a good take by you now.
I guess my thing with it was that it was just kind of like, I want all of us to do better. And then it's like a millennial will slit someone else's throat for a meme. It's like, wait, that doesn't seem to add up. And again, it was a generalization, and the guy who was clearly a millennial wrote the piece, and he was very upset about it. So I was like, all right, whatever, man. I was like, we'll just agree to disagree on this one. So that was about it. But yeah, the positive vibes thing is great because the more I thought about it when I saw this email from Kyle, I was just like, yeah, oh, I love everybody. Wait, you were going to have this moment of happiness, but it was going to infringe upon my happiness level. Yeah, I don't want you actually to be happy. Can you delay your happy thing? Can your vibes be delayed for like a month? Is that cool? Awesome. All right. So yeah, Cerruti was right. So go ahead.
I don't think it's that ridiculous. I mean, here's the thing, especially about guys at a wedding. The wedding's not about you. It just isn't. I accepted that going into my wedding. Like it was about my parents. It was about Maddie. It was about her parents more than it was about me. I was just happy to be there, had a good time, tried not to mess anything up, and I was happy about it. But I didn't think about stuff like that. And Maddie, who is my wife, is the most low-key, chill person alive. And even she wouldn't have. If someone like proposed the week leading up to our wedding that was coming to our wedding, I don't even think she would be cool with that, which tells you that it's just the wrong move. It just is. Period.
Yeah, as you say that out loud, first of all, your wife is extremely cool. So I can't imagine it was that big of a deal anyway. And it wasn't like you were like, I have to let her be the star of the show, even though that's the right thing to do. You're right. Okay. You're right. Be the star of the show. But it's not like she's seeking that out in ways that we could certainly. And I'm not even talking about anybody specifically, but you just know there are certain brides that it's going to be like, nah, this is like all about. Like I had certain guys that weren't invited to some of them because she was just like, well, he may do this or that could happen here or whatever. And then some guys were like left out going, wait, what? What's going on?
I mean, if that happened, none of my friends would have been invited to my wedding. I mean, period. Like we had a dude puking on two separate buses on the way home. Like we knew what the deal was going to be going in, and it got weird. And if my wife put the foot down like that, none of my friends would have been invited in the first place. So that sucks if you have a wife like that or a significant other like that.
But I also realized as you were explaining it, you're kind of like the groom of life. Like your day to day, you're not there. You never make it about yourself. You are just happy that everybody else is doing their thing. And it's almost like you could be a little bit more selfish because the way you said, like, I knew that day wasn't about me. I feel like you approach a lot of stuff that way. And it's probably why everybody likes you so much because you're just like, yeah, whatever. I'm here. What's going on?
Yeah, no, I could be more selfish. That's 100% true. But I don't think just my vibe. That's my positive vibe, dude. It's just me not caring about stuff. I let stuff go. I don't really mind. Like
I like that.
If somebody really wants to have the attention be on them for something, like gladly take it. I don't really care about that. And I find it weird when people do care about it.
Okay, this one's heavy, and I know what I want to say. I'm not sure. We're just gonna go for it. So, and it sucks, sort of, or maybe it doesn't. So here we go. Don't use my name. 6'1.5". Nice. 195. Huge fan of the pod. Been listening. SVP. Your life advice segments going all the way back to Texas Jake. Hey, can Texas Jake send a follow-up email? Because I feel like we never really did a full follow through with him. Remember, he was trying to be. He wanted to work as like an athletic director. Texas Jake, hit us a follow-up email. People really want to know what's going on. All right. I hope, and then our guy says, I hope he's doing well. We all do. We really liked him.
He was a nice guy. Yeah.
He was really nice. So you like talked to him on the phone a few times, right?
We emailed back and forth for a bit. Yeah.
That's Texas Jake. Yeah, he's not a phone call. He wasn't going to keep calling you all the time.
But he followed up, and we were interested in his deal. But that was like 3 years ago. So I mean, he might even be the AD at some big school right now. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Probably not.
Probably not a huge school, but maybe on his way.
A directional school.
All this time listening, I never considered writing until now. Here's my situation. Mid-30s, married, young kids. I've worked in the financial world my whole career. Decided to make a career move a couple years ago after earning my potential plateaued. After my earning potential plateaued at my old firm, I took a pay cut from making just under $200K a year to a new role making $100K base with a chance for much more upside. A bonus potential of 3 to 5 times my base once my business unit is humming. All right, flash forward to 2 years, and I'm still grinding on a $100,000 base. As the runway to get the new operation going has been long. COVID, market conditions, you name it. It's been a longer grind than expected, but things are picking up and I'm hitting my targets this year. I should be feeling great, right? All right, so that was kind of cool because the way that previous paragraph ended, it felt a little bit like an infomercial. But I'm going to defer. I'm just always kind of deferring to trust here, right? In that it sounds like this guy's, despite some bumps in the road, feeling good about where it's going. So maybe he's going to make all that money. Great. But here's where it gets tricky. My wife is a real estate agent. She's been busier than ever in our upper middle class suburb with folks fleeing the city and moving to the burbs the past 18 months. She's great at what she does, and I've been proud of her as her career took off. Not to mention, after my cut in income, she's been able to pick up the slack and keep us comfortable. She'd never made more money than I during our relationship until this past year. Now when we need it most, she comes through. I should be feeling great, right? I feel like this is not going to be feeling great soon. Here's the kicker. Throughout the stress of little kids and tight budgets, we typically would only have sex once or twice a month. I'm not great on these topics because I just don't understand the marriage thing. And when I'll hear my buddies talk about the sex life thing, it kind of blows my mind, even though I know it's exactly what it is. So I'm not, I know there's some limitations to I'm not great on this topic, the sex lives of married people, other than I've heard a lot about what happens once you get married. So anyway, so we're talking once or twice a month. It is what it is. And I just dealt with it. Recently, we experienced an uptick, much like the leads on this new business. Twice a week, the last 6 weeks, way more than our average stats. I should be feeling great, right? This is like, I wonder if this guy says this with his buddies as he tells stories out loud. Now I'm starting to wonder if it's fake. All right. But anyway, after a long night out during some extremely drunken sex, she said something I can't get out of my head. My husband wouldn't like this. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
What?
Yeah. She said my husband wouldn't like this. So our emailer continues. What the fuck? Is my wife cheating on me? Is the uptick in sex in exchange for some guilt she's carrying? Or is this all in my head? Some kind of inferiority complex as I financially defer to her while I build my new career? Was it just some poorly worded, drunken, dirty talk? How do I bring this up without blowing up our marriage and accusing her of cheating because of something she probably doesn't remember saying? As my new career takes off, will I realize this was nothing, or will it always be in the back of my mind if I don't comfort her? I hope this isn't too heavy for the sports pod. He also said he doesn't want to ever get divorced because of the kids. All right. If we cover all angles on this, there are going to be some you like and some you don't, right? Let's start with the best version of it. You already said you guys were out late. I mean, it could have just been something stupid that she said. I will admit, one time in college, let's just say another name was said out loud. And
by you or someone else?
I don't know. I'm not like super comfortable because I don't want to end up going down that road of like, man, this Sixers fourth quarter. All right, here's what I was like in bed. So, you know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know that I ever really want to cross over to that. Maybe I will one day, but
imagination. There you go.
Yeah.
I think we know the answer to that though.
Yes. Look, who cares? Yes. She said another one of my buddy's names. And so I was like, what? And then I, because I was also a college kid, hothead all the time. And I would just be like, I just was like, what? And then, went back to probably my apartment or something. And then the next day she was like, I was hammered and I was trying to remember how like we got home and we'd all gotten in a cab together. And she's like, that's why that happened. And it all checked out. And it didn't even make any sense that it would have been this other guy anyway. So that very well could have been what it was. Your wife was drunk and said something that didn't make any sense because she was drunk. Now, combining that with the uptick in sex, I think you would hear from some people say, was there something that's happened recently where you guys are just kind of in that mode a little bit more? There are ebbs and flows to this. So that could be part of it. But this is the part that you may not want to hear is I think there are other people that will tell you that a change in behavior sexually is the first sign that something is actually happening. And that's not what you want to hear here. So I don't want to give you all of this advice and be like, all right, hire a private investigator, because there's like a different way of doing it. You could just say, hey, can I talk to you about something that happened the other night? And if you know your wife well enough, you can read her. If you've never had any suspicion of it ever before and you're wrong and you bring it up, like you said, that might go even worse than any other part of it. But it's really going to be up to you. Like, how long are you going to let this beat you up in your head? Because at some point you're going to have to address it either with her. Again, I'm not saying like, all of a sudden you're like, you should start get a babysitter, maybe staking her out 3 or 4 nights a week. Cause then you could end up being a complete psycho because your wife said something silly while she was drunk and you guys were together. So if it's bothering you this much, there's going to be a moment where you're finally going to have to address it, or maybe it just kind of goes away because there's never been any signs, there's never been anything. But there's a lot of things you have to notice. Like, does she turn her phone upside down? Does she have a phone lock now that she never had before? Is she going out with the girls more often? Is she buying new clothes that you don't see her wearing? Is there a guy named Doug that's calling the house a lot? Anyway, the last one, I'm kind of kidding. So I'm not trying to like freak you out and plan all these things in your head because you don't know the answer, but it'd be naive to be like, no, you're totally fine. But it also is, I don't know if it's likely or not because I don't know you guys, but it could very simply be something silly that was said in the moment after a night of drinking, which is, not exactly an unusual thing to happen. So good luck with all that.
I think the insecurity about the pay and her now making more than you is probably putting this as a bigger idea in your head that it could potentially be a thing. So I wouldn't worry about that part of it. But what I would worry about, like, if you know that your wife doesn't say things like that, like, hey, my husband wouldn't like this. Like, your wife. And if you know that that's a weird thing, even if she's drunk or not,
well, sober would be probably a bigger deal. Yeah.
That to me is that I don't want to be like a bummer here, but that to me is kind of weird. And like, if just being honest, like the real estate thing, like, that's an odd job kind of thing. So it's really hard to track that person down, right? Because they could say, I'm going on a showing, right? And you'd just be like, all right, how do you know?
Good call on the real estate thing.
Yeah. So I don't want to alarm you, but I think it's worth checking into. And if it's going to really bother you, I think it's worth confronting her about it and just having a grown up conversation because, it's going to make it. If you're going to hold it against her and she actually isn't cheating on you, then it's not going to be worse, but it's going to be terrible for your relationship too. So you kind of have to get to the bottom of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it probably made this guy feel worse. So, but yeah, there's no way to answer this. I mean, it would be completely irresponsible. Like, no, dude, you're probably fine. Don't worry about it. Like, you're good. But there's also a chance you're totally fine. And, maybe if there's never any other moment in the next however many months where you have any kind of like, there's nothing ever, 0 flags, and you're maybe even looking a little bit more here or there, then maybe you're fine and you don't have to bring it up. But if you're starting to notice things, there's 2 ways of going about it. You can start getting really weird and paying a lot of attention. But it's your life too. So, I don't know. It's kind of like, how far can we go with the advice on this thing? I don't want to start talking about like an invasion of privacy here. So, that one's, but like as we're talking this out, Cerruti, he already knows the answers to a lot of the stuff that we're talking about because of her. Like we're talking about 2 people we don't know. So at this point, I'll probably just kind of stop it. But yeah, if we're talking 6 months from now and you've noticed a couple other things and you're driving yourself crazy, like you can't just live like that quietly in silence and keep it all inside.
You need to figure out and get to the bottom of it, even if it's the answer you don't want to hear.
Sounds good. We'll leave it at that. I think probably some people would ask Cerruti for more on the married side of thing, but I don't want to put my man stuff out on the street either. So
no, I mean, the sex thing is a little I don't want to freak this guy out, freak everybody out, but the sex thing is a little bit of a red flag too. Like that's odd. That just doesn't. I don't know like what every marriage is like, and just because I'm married doesn't mean I'm an expert on every marriage, which I think is what a lot of people think. Just like when they have people have kids, they're an expert on everyone's kid. But I that is a bit of a red flag if it's all of a sudden this uptick, because that would make me kind of feel weird too. I don't know. Just saying.
All right, Cerruti making husbands out there feel better one podcast at a time.
There you go.
Thanks to Cerruti and Kyle Crichton, and I hope everybody enjoyed the interviews on this one as well. Bill and I will be back on Sunday night, as we will maybe have the finals decided as far as the matchups. I think they would be actually by then, depending on the schedule. Yep. I got to look at it. I'm a day to day. I wake up, who's playing? Okay, good. That's what I'm doing. That's how my day works out.
Yeah, you're about the grind. You don't look ahead, dude.
I don't. I really am one game at a time, unless there's two. All right. We'll talk to you Sunday.